Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're unpacking this massive, invisible force that's constantly buzzing in the background of our lives. We are talking about economic cycles, and more specifically, we're going to look at the actual mechanical anatomy of a recession.
The economy is heading into a recession. You've seen this, right? Headlines like that or experts fear a global downturn, they literally bombard us every single day. And look, they're definitely designed to grab your attention. But let's be totally honest here. Mostly, they just induce a whole lot of anxiety. When you constantly see that word, recession, plastered everywhere in huge bold letters, it's incredibly easy to feel this creeping sense of dread about your own personal finances.
So, before we go any further, there is a crucial question we've got to address right out of the gate. Does all this mean total economic collapse? Absolutely not. No way. Let's step away from those alarmist headlines for a minute and look at the true mechanical definition. Because a recession, it's simply a phase in a cycle. It is not the end of the world.
Here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, what exactly is a recession? Second, what causes it? Third, the impact on everyday life. Fourth, are all recessions the same? And finally, number 5, how do governments respond?
Starting us off with Section 1. What is a recession? Let's strip away the panic.
Okay, so fundamentally, a recession is a period when a country's economy slows down significantly and actually shrinks for an extended period of time. Think of it like the overall economy is just taking its foot off the gas pedal. During this time, activity becomes much weaker than usual. What that boils down to in the real world is that businesses are selling fewer products, companies are investing way less capital into their operations, and you and I, everyday people, are spending less money. It's really just a broad, systemic slowdown in economic momentum.
Moving right along to Section 2. What actually causes a recession? Let's look at the economic drivers.
Basically, there are 3 main catalysts for a recession that you need to know about. We've got low consumer spending, high interest rates, and global events. These are the primary forces that can really tip the scales.
Let's break down that first catalyst, low consumer spending. This one is fascinating because, honestly, it's heavily psychological. When people start getting worried about the future, maybe because they're seeing all those scary headlines we just talked about, they naturally decide to hold on to their cash. They pull back. But here's the catch. When everyone does this at exactly the same time, businesses start earning a lot less money. And as their sales tank, those companies are forced to cut production or maybe delay their big plans for expansion. It basically becomes this self-fulfilling cycle of economic cooling.
The second driver is high interest rates. Now, unlike consumer psychology, this is pure mechanics. When borrowing gets expensive, and that could mean a family trying to get a mortgage for a new house or a massive company taking out a loan to build a factory, spending just drops. The math simply doesn't justify the expense anymore. This reduces demand across the entire economy and throws a really heavy brake on our economic momentum.
And then we have our third catalyst, global disruptions. Now, unlike consumer sentiment or the basic math of interest rates, these are the unpredictable shocks to the system. We're talking financial crises, pandemics, major natural disasters, or large-scale conflicts. These sudden, massive events can just instantly scramble supply chains, completely halt business operations, and drastically reduce global economic activity, sometimes in a matter of mere weeks.
Okay, Section 3, impact on everyday life, or more specifically, how this actually affects you. Now, what's really interesting about this is the parallel feedback loop we're seeing here. On the left side, you've got businesses acting defensively, right? Facing a slowdown, they might cut jobs to lower their costs, reduce hiring, or delay opening those new stores and projects. Then, look at the right side. Consumers see this happening, they feel that uncertainty, and they immediately react by spending less, delaying major financial choices, and just strictly focusing on immediate necessities. One side feeds directly into the other. It's a perfect illustration of exactly why economic growth slows down across the board.
That brings us to Section 4. Are all recessions the same? Let's talk about the spectrum of slowdowns.
The short answer here? No, absolutely not. Recessions exist on a really wide spectrum. Some are remarkably short and mild. The economy takes a quick dip, catches its breath, and recovers quickly. But others, well, they can be much deeper and last a whole lot longer. The severity really depends on exactly what caused the recession in the first place. Was it just a temporary shock, or was it a deep systemic flaw? And crucially, it depends heavily on how the authorities react to fix it.
Which perfectly sets up Section 5. How do governments actually respond? Let's look at fixing the engine.
So, governments and central banks, they don't just sit back and watch the slowdown happen. They actively step in, using 3 main levers. First, they adjust interest rates, usually pushing them down to make borrowing cheaper to stimulate spending.
Second, they encourage new capital investment through policy changes. And third, they provide direct support and relief to struggling businesses to prevent massive job losses. Basically, they're actively intervening to get the gears turning again.
And all of this brings us to the ultimate goal, recovery. The absolutely crucial takeaway I want you to remember here is that a recession is a slowdown. It is not the end of the economy. By understanding this cycle, you're empowered. You realize that a recession is just a temporary, mechanical phase. Sure, it's uncomfortable for sure, but it's a completely natural part of the broader economic rhythm. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Now that you truly understand the mechanics of what a recession is and what drives it, how will this knowledge help you make better financial decisions during the next economic news cycle? Think about it. When you see those scary headlines again, you're not going to panic. You'll know exactly what's going on under the hood. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep leveraging these tools, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.